You've probably seen dramatic headlines predicting an ice-free Arctic by 2030. Likely, it won't happen quite so fast, but it's also not as far off as we'd like to believe. More average estimates predict an ice-free Arctic between 2040 and 2070, certainly within the lifetimes and many of our viewers. And when it happens, when the last of that summer sea ice disappears, it's going to change everything by accelerating global warming, sea level rise, and extreme weather. First, you might not understand why climate scientists consider an ice-free Arctic as a critical climate tipping point. To understand why, let's talk about a simple scientific concept called phase change. I'll explain this concept by describing a simple experiment you can try at home. Grab a saucepan, fill it with ice, add water to the top. Now put it on the stove, crank the heat, and stick in a thermometer. What happens? At first, the temperature won't really rise. Even though the burner is blazing, the water hovers near freezing. Why? Because all that energy is going into melting the ice, not heating the water. That's phase change. The moment the last chunk of ice melts, the water temperature spikes, fast. Now imagine the Arctic is that saucepan. Over the last few decades, we've seen more and more sea ice disappear. But oddly enough, Arctic water temperatures haven't skyrocketed. That's because, just like the saucepan, changing solid ice to liquid water is soaking up the energy. It's been buying us time, but we're running out of ice. So, what happens after the ice melts? Once the summer Arctic becomes ice-free, something scientists now expect could happen between the 2030s and 2050s, depending on emissions, that heat shield vanishes. And then, the Arctic Ocean heats up rapidly. Warmer waters melt Greenland's ice sheets faster, raising sea levels. Thawed permafrost releases methane, a potent greenhouse gas. Jet stream patterns destabilize, fueling more extreme weather globally. This isn't just a problem for polar bears and will have a severe global impact. An ice-free Arctic would mean more extreme heat waves and cold snaps in North America and Europe. Changes in monsoon patterns that billions of people rely on. Accelerated sea level rise, threatening coastal cities, amplified feedback loops that make climate change harder to reverse. It's a climate tipping point, and by the time we hit it, we can't just put the ice back. Sure, people have floated the idea of building a giant ice machine, maybe as a joke. Of course, the energy required to run it would probably just make things worse. Now, does this mean we're doomed by 2030? Number. Most scientists agree we won't hit a totally ice-free Arctic by then, at least not every summer. Some studies were even just looking at an ice-free day in the summertime by 2030 and not an entire ice-free month. Most of the current reports discuss ice-free summers, but climate scientists agree an ice-free winter would be an irreversible tipping point. Sadly, we're trending in that direction faster than expected. If it's not within years, it might happen within a few decades. And once it happens, things accelerate. So, what can we do? Cut emissions now, because delay only locks in worse outcomes. We probably can't stop climate change, but we can still delay and mitigate the impact. Adapt, by building resilience in food systems, cities, and energy grids. We need to plan for climate change like it's happening, because it is. Try to keep yourself and your family physically and mentally healthy, and nurture your social support networks. Forget about lone wolf preppers. The pack survives. And most importantly, stay informed, because understanding is power. Global climate patterns are incredibly tricky to predict, and data constantly changes. Even so, try to keep up with the latest news so you're not surprised. What do you think? Is it already too late to pull back from the tipping point for climate change? Let us know what you think in the comments. And just as important, how you think we need to adapt. As always, you can support our efforts by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. That way, we can remain connected, and it's important to maintain our communities in this changing world.